So let's talk about the core light that I have in my package. I've been using these lights, dado lights, for over 10 years for one very good reason. This is a 150 watt lamp which only runs at 24 volts. So it actually has a dimmer and a power control unit here which sits on the stand. Let me talk to you about a dado light and why they're so cool. This is a DLH3, which is the predecessor to this one, which is available now, which is the DLH4. Essentially the same light with a couple of minor improvements. But the core essence of a dado light is the way in which it efficiently uses the light. This is a 24 volt bulb. It sits and reflects on this parabolic silver dome here, which you can just see there, Fred. It then goes through an optical lens and then through another lens on the front. This is called dual aspheric lenses. The modern lights are called Aspherics 2. I'm using older ones. It's very hard to get these lights used actually, because generally guys that shoot with them never want to get rid of them, and they're easy to service. As I say, I've had these for about 10 years. They're absolutely brilliant lights. Let me just put that down for a second. They're very, very efficient. Now at only 12 volts or 24 volts, there's an option for both. At 12 volts you get 100 watts of output, at 24 volts you get 150 watts of output. But what's interesting is the equivalent output is similar to that of a 300 watt regular, let's say, Arri Fresnel at the same distance. And there's a lot of control. You can really sculpt with the light. And we're going to show you exactly what these lenses can do and these lights can do a bit later on. But they're very, very compact. In fact, Fred, if I just pin you around here, in this bag here, for example, I can fit 5 dado heads, plus all the stands, plus all the power. So everything I'm showing you here fits in my car as my core go-to lighting kit when I go on jobs. So there is the head itself. We've got a dimmer on here, so we can control the light on a dimmer, and very compact stands. Let me move that out the way just for a second and show you some other lights. So here we've got a variation on that light. And in this light, as you can see, this has got the dual aspherics too. The ballast itself is built into the bottom of the light. So this is just a different way of delivering the light. And then what I've got on the front of here is this articulated piece of metal wire. And this allows me to place this inexpensive disc from Photoflex, a translucent disc. And this takes my hard light source from the actual lamp itself. So if I show you my hand there, Fred, you can see it probably burns out a little bit here. But I've got a hard light source here, but by the time I get it to the front of the disc, it's converted that into a soft light source. So this is a really useful tool. Again, very, very compact for turning a hard light source into a soft light source. And if I want to turn that into a hard light source, I can just simply move this away or put it back into shot. So one of the things I like to do with my core lighting package is have huge versatility in the tools that I have, because you never know when you go into location what you're going to need. So if you're able to turn a hard light source into a soft light source inexpensively and very quickly, that's a really good thing. And interestingly, just while we're here, you can see the level of shapes that I can create simply by using the barn doors and adjusting where the lenses sit. So the lenses work by really focusing that light in a very controlled fashion. These are really useful for just catching eyes and putting a nice soft blend into someone's eyes. And as I say, exactly the same as the other light, just the ballast is actually built into the light source itself. So let me just switch that one off now. And as I say, I've got 4 or 5 dado heads, but what I'm always looking to do is control the light as well. Now, if we're using the previous light with the disc on it, that's going to throw the light into all sorts of directions. And sometimes you want to be able to control where that light doesn't go as much as where it does go. And I use this here. This is called a road rag. It's a compact kit from a company called Matthews Studio Equipment. And this allows me to place this in this frame. And then there's this second part of the kit, which is this knuckle kit. And what this allows me to do, if you can see this, Fred, is just control where I place that flag. I can put that in any position I want. And using these knuckles, which just sits and attaches to the frame with this grip, allows me to place that flag in any position. Let me show you what's in this kit. The first part of the kit is this. This is the road rags kit, and what we've got in here is some scrims, which is labelled red and green for full and half scrim. We've got a diffuser. Let me just take this out of here and I'll show you how this works. So everything I'm showing you is compact and you can travel with. I'll fly with this very, very easily. You've got this nice frame which just pops together, a bit like sort of tent pegs, and then what you do, and it's always a bit fiddly this, is if I wanted to create a soft diffusion, I just grab this end here and slot these onto there. All this stuff can be a little bit fiddly, but you know, you're getting stuff that's compact, and so compact stuff tends to be a little bit of extra effort than carrying huge bits of gear around. Then you simply take these elasticated bands, and what I'm able to do then is create another soft lighting source. This is called a silk, and if I put this light through here, look at that, I can take that hard light source and create a soft light source. So a nice way to diffuse the light. And what I could do is take another clamp, which comes in this bag. So this is a two-part kit. In the first bag we've got the mini grip kit. So it's just an arm with a clamp that sits on the lighting stand, and you can do what we've done here is clamp it to the lighting stand. All lightweight stuff, very, very lightweight, very kind of machined aluminium. I think most of it's aircraft aluminium, so it's really lightweight but very, very strong. And actually place these light modification tools in any position you want to get the effect that you're after. As well as having just the light source itself, you want tools like these flag kits, like scrims, like nets, like diffusion, to control where the light goes and where the light doesn't go. So that's that. Let's move on to the bigger version of this next. So this here is a larger version of what I just showed you. Now, we're talking about advanced lighting here, and you might think this is an overkill piece of gear to carry in your car. But first of all, it comes split into two. So it's a frame that easily packs down, granted into a largish bag, but nonetheless a bag that can be transported in an SUV or a large car. But when you start to use big tools like this, suddenly the kind of dado style of lighting stand aren't really going to be strong enough to take the weight once this is up. So we need to use a larger stand. I have two of these. This is called a C stand or a Century stand, very popular on film sets. It's steel, it's heavy, but you have this knuckle and arm which allows you to place the items like this frame in any position you want, and they're very, very strong. You know, they're actually strong enough to stand on and take the weight of a grown man. And the other nice thing is they're very versatile because they can go up quite high. So again, a useful advanced lighting tool and relatively inexpensive given the versatility it will give you. So I'll move that out of the way. So these are large frames, and when we did the Sunny music video at the Music Video Masterclass, we used these in Matt's kitchen to light Kelly. We had a 400D HMI, which we'll come on to later, coming through this big silk screen. Let me explain to you why we use large surface areas of diffusion. If we take a very small light source and a hard light source, it's a point source, a bit like using a torch or a flashlight. You get a very sort of standard small source of light in one place. It's like a spotlight. If you shine that spotlight onto a large surface area, the source of the light becomes the large surface area. And so what you get is a much more diffused, nice, softer light with less harsh shadows. And with this frame, you get another scrim. Now a scrim just takes the density of the light down. It acts a bit like neutral density. It will actually cut the light intensity down without affecting the color by absorbing some of the light going through this little net here, you can see. And then you also get, in this pouch, a flag, which is just a piece of black fabric. and you can control light staying off an area, and we'll use this later on to demonstrate why you would use a flag in that environment. So these are just larger versions of what I showed you in the last section. So you can use this on this frame and one of the C-stands to just block out the light. So really having some bigger frames, some bigger light modification tools is a very, very useful thing to have in your kit. Now this light here is my most commonly used light on location, not just for lighting interviews, but lighting music videos, and almost every production that I've ever worked on, I've started using this light. And I'll tell you why. It's just so versatile, especially when you're using cameras that are ISO 800 and above. FS100, FS700, DSLR, perfect light. It's 150 watts, and this is the head. I used this on the vertical music video to light the scene where Cozzy and Tom were having the argument, and I simply put it on a C-stand that I showed you earlier and slung it over the top of the table. So this is part of the light fixture. It's a Dedolight 150. It's got the ballast the same as the other lights, the dimmer, but this is where the magic happens here. This is actually a softbox. Now, what happens here is it packs again very small, and what I can do is build this softbox up by popping into these little holes, and then I pop this round like so, and then like so. So out of that little bag comes this rather versatile and useful light. Now what I always do is I always fold these elements back. As you can see here, when I've not done, I've actually burnt the light there. So let's push this back. It's all Velcro. Some of this stuff can be a bit fiddly, but you know, it doesn't take a huge amount of time, and it's worth doing to preserve your gear. So there we've got a soft light source, and what I can do here, Fred, is switch this on, and again, it's on a dimmer. So I can dim down and dim up. And if I just want a nice soft light source here, similar to the big frame I was talking about, we've got this tiny, tiny light source around the back here, as you can see. Let me dim this down so you can see it. One tiny source of light with that parabolic reflector again, bounces through onto this area of white and gives me a nice soft source. Now, if I wanted to, I could use that as a hard source. You can see the metal here, very, very hard. So that shadow here on my finger, and by putting the diffusion up, I diffuse that shadow right down. But what happens if I want even more control? Because soft light like this tends to splay everywhere. So what I can do is use an accessory which is not commonly sold as standard with a softbox. Softboxes are, again, can appear relatively inexpensive, but this part here, the egg crate or the grid, is often as expensive as the soft light itself. And that's because of the intricacy of what it is. It's a very carefully engineered fabric grid. And what we do is there's Velcro on here, and this sticks on like so, and like so. And this gives us control of a soft light source. And what you're able to do, and we'll demonstrate this in more detail in the next chapter, is you're creating essentially barn doors that focus that soft light into a direction. And what you end up with is this beautiful light source in the middle of the frame, and it vignettes off the dark at the edges. Works very well in interviews, very well for portraits, and I'll demonstrate how effective this is on our model in the next chapter. But this is very versatile because you can sling it overhead, you can use it as a fill light, you can use it as a key light, and as an interview source, it's just very, very beautiful. You can get really close into it. And particularly on female faces, it can look very, very attractive. On me, not so. Another really important and useful accessory are these rolls of lighting gel. This is neutral density gel, and what you can do with this is hang it outside exterior windows to reduce the amount of light coming into the scene. We're going to be using that definitely on location, but I've also got a series of different types of diffusion, and these big rolls can be very useful because you can hang them on C-stands, drape light through them, or use them actually in vision and throw light onto them. So we'll be using these a bit later on, but again, these are kind of advanced tools that if you want to really just raise your lighting game, these aren't horrifically expensive either, or certainly be less expensive than you might think, and very useful on location. Now, there's a bit of a theme to this chapter, and as you can tell, it's a lot about light modification. Once again, we're using a grid here. This is a 60-degree grid, and on this light fixture here, we have a 90-degree grid. And this just controls how much spread there is from the light source. Now, it's no secret that I have not been a big fan of LED lights. That is until now. This is the LED celeb light from KinoFlow. Now, this is not the most inexpensive light you'll ever come across, but it is fantastic. You can control tungsten, daylight, or blend those two colors simply by adjusting the back of the lamp fixture. You can go from 3 to 100% in dimming quality, or you can change color temperature from 2700 Kelvin all the way up to 5500 Kelvin. Now, this is not a light that everyone is going to be able to afford, but it is incredibly versatile and incredibly accurate. As you can see, it goes from tungsten all the way through to mixed, through to daylight. The problem with LED light fixtures is that a lot of the lower cost ones are using industrial quality LEDs. And the problem with that is inconsistency of color and output. And the trouble is when you light with a low cost, sometimes very cheap LED, which can on the surface seem like great value, you might get 3 lights for $1,000. The trouble is you may find that certainly in mixed lighting conditions, you just don't get color consistency across a scene. And the problem is when you light with LEDs, and certainly the cheaper LEDs on skin tones, you can get some very odd green casts. Now, this is about really technically kind of high quality light control. If you're doing the kind of work that requires absolute consistency, and let's face it, if you're shooting a CEO and you're getting paid a reasonable amount of money to do that job, and you're using a cheap LED fixture and their faces look green because the output from the light is green, you associate green with rotting flesh and something that isn't all that healthy. So you want to think about that cheap LED fixture with your client. If they don't look their very best, they're going to think, well, maybe it was you. So, you know, I think you've got to think very carefully before buying LED lights and make sure when you do invest in LEDs, you're buying high quality. Now, I'm very fortunate I'm able to use this celeb light. I find it incredibly versatile. On the Sunny music video, we were running out of time at the end of the day. We were supposed to have left the location at 9 p.m. and this very last scene we shot with one of these lights. It was so quick and easy. We just put the grid on, set the light up, and this was the resulting image, this beautiful quality of light on Kelly. Really very flattering. So this is one of my newest and certainly most exciting lights. It is LED, and I'm going to show you in some more detail in a later chapter just some of the benefits of this particular LED fixture over some of the lower cost ones. And you can now power this light fixture using battery. It uses a 3-pin XLR, not an audio cable, but a 3-pin power XLR, and 2 130 watt-hour batteries like these ones will give you 2.5 hours of power at full output. So that's a useful accessory. And finally, of course, we've got to think about how we transport all our lighting gear. Starting here with my dado bag, in this bag here I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lighting fixtures. That's 5 lights in one bag. My diffusion disc and the arm goes in this top part. I've got some lighting gel and some clothes pegs in there. I use them to attach the lighting gel to the lights themselves. I have some spare bulbs. I have got my power distribution. I've got in the front here cable space for extension cords, and all the lighting stands go in this bag as well. My next big bag is what I call my lighting run bag. In here I have black foil. This is black wrap. It comes in a box like this, but once you've used it a few times you end up rolling it back up. This is a very useful fire retardant black foil, and what you can do is tear that off and mold it into different shapes and put it around lenses to stop flare coming in or around lights to control where that light goes. I've also got some power cables here. In the UK we use these 3-pin plugs. Clamps. This is a Manfrotto clamp, and this is useful for sort of clamping onto doors and bits of wood and shelves to get a light into position. And then finally, got some more power cords here. I've got a smaller roll of lighting gels. I've got different colours for creating different effects. Now, I don't often use coloured gels, but I've got them there in case I need them. That all sits in here, all goes in like so. I've got lots of extra pockets for spare fuses and the likes. In the back here, I've got my 2 pop-up reflectors, very, very useful, especially when filming outdoors. One is a 5-in-1 reflector, so I've got a diffusion disc, a silver disc, a gold disc, and a black side. I'll be using them later on. You can also use these on locations to control light. And then finally, I've got my yellow box here for my celeb light. So all of the lighting you've just seen packs down into these 3 cases. So that's very, very useful. You can get all that kind of quality and choice of tools, but packed down really small.